Welcome to Green Beans, where two boys dressed in green sit on beans and chat about life. Except today it's a little different. Today we have three boys on a boat chatting about who knows what. So, I'm your host, Jared, and with me is Ethan over there.
Hello.
But we have a guest today. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
If you're giving me that much honor, I'm Patrick. Yeah.
All right.
What's your profession?
Obviously, I compensate in money for giving people things they need, such as food.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a pretty well-trained task. Takes a lot of effort. Not really, but it could be. You understand? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, right now we're at our lake house, and Patrick is our cousin. He's visiting, and so I guess we can start off with talking about if anything interesting happened since our last episode. So, I know Ethan and I, as we've talked about previously, went to National Youth Leadership Training. We staff members there, and we can talk about that a bit more in future episodes. But what about you, Patrick? Anything interesting happened to you this week?
This week, I showed up here. Not initially from here, so that's pretty nice. Water and stuff, that's pretty nice too. Get to see these guys not very frequently, so it's pretty nice to see them more frequently in the last month or so than normal, so it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, though. I haven't done a whole lot other than that.
Yeah. All right, Ethan, anything you want to add?
Well, since both of us were camping last week, we kind of have the same type of story, National Youth Leadership Training. So, we can cover that in another episode. But, let's just start off with asking Patrick a few questions. Which I think you had a question, Jared, correct?
I did?
I was gonna ask him something, but my brain kind of melted, so I don't remember. Are you a scientist?
By the loosest form of the term, yes. I feel like you can be a scientist if you declare yourself as one.
All right.
It's just scientific information, build it up in your brain, become a scientist. You don't need the title, but you can still be a scientist. Got that research,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important. You should definitely do your research as a scientist.
Yeah.
Or just as a person.
For everything, really.
Yeah. So I know you, Patrick, did a research paper a while back about sleep, right?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah. Why don't you give us some fun facts about sleep?
So the research paper was mainly about short terms of sleep. So power naps and short different terms of sleep. So a power nap is typically within a 5-minute barrier. Normal nap is within 10 minutes. If it's higher than that, you go into Rem sleep, which creates a whole sleeping, which is just sleeping. But so within those 5 minutes, most people, a nap is 10. You go sleep. You get either well rested, or if you don't sleep well, you just feel worse about yourself, which is never good. But you can train your brain with meditations and different sleep studies, just going through your own brain and working on how you sleep to get almost a full night's rest of sleep. So you feel just as good waking up from 8 hours of perfectly good rested sleep within just a few minutes, which is a great thing to learn how to do. I personally love sleeping. It's just one of the favorite things I do. I would almost say it was a hobby of mine back in the day. It was great I had this problem where I couldn't stay awake in the morning. And when your morning class in school is really boring, it's really hard to stay awake if you don't stay awake in the morning normally. So I would sleep very short periods of time in my life. And then you feel better about the day, and you feel better about the rest of your classes if you can evenly space out when you sleep in a class. Don't recommend it, but if you do, you get better throughout the day, and you feel just better about yourself. That's only if you don't have good sleep at the night. But through the research paper, I learned how how to do that more proficiently, and just it's easier to do the more times you are awake. So the longer you stay awake at night, you have more control of how you want to sleep. So if you're constantly tired throughout the day and you don't sleep early or take a nap within the 10-minute barrier, which normally would be, some people take naps a few hours, which is just sleeping in the middle of the day, which you can call a nap, but mentally throughout your brain and how you sleep is not the same thing. But overall, you basically, a good thing is always stable with meditation, just like work with your brain and know where you feel comfortable in order to just put yourself to sleep. Like lay down, feel to your nose to your toes, and just put yourself into a nice relaxing mood, and then slowly put yourself to sleep. And then once you get yourself to sleep for a whole period of sleep, you know when you can wake up because you are in control of when you fell asleep. That makes sense?
I catch your drift.
Okay, from drift. Oh, we're on a boat, so that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned like, did you call it REM sleep?
Yeah, REM sleep.
What is that?
REM sleep is the deepest part of your sleep. That's where all your dreams are being held. That is only active when you're fully under sleep, which either is within a short period of time when you put yourself to sleep or in your fully nightly sleep. Most people with an 8 hours sleep only get about 2 hours of REM sleep, which those dreams could feel like days, but at the same time, they could feel like seconds, depending on how your brain comprehends and what happened throughout the day. A lot of dreams are processed through memories, so it's just whatever you think of is what's put into the brain, and you process it as that new found thing. A lot of people get deja vu from your dreams because if you have a boring life, it's hard to say it like that, but if you do have a boring life where you do something such as a job that has the same time parameters, uh, you become more apt to deja vu, and you can see your dreams more frequently happening.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah. I know, at least with me, like, I barely ever remember my dreams, and like when I first wake up, I'll like remember what I dreamt about, and then like very soon after that, I just like completely forget about it. Do you know anything about how like remembering dreams work?
So that means you actually sleep better than the average human being. Most of the time, you remember dreams better if they're interrupted. That's why a lot of people is like, oh, I want to go back to sleep and finish that dream, which doesn't happen because your brain's already processed it out. You only remember it up until the point where you forget. So the better you sleep, the less you're going to remember those dreams. You can feel more well rested, but your mental capacity is just going to remember those dreams better and better the worse you sleep.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I remember a ton of my dreams, probably because I suck at sleeping. Yeah, I think the most recent dream I had was like 2 days ago. I had a dream that like a mouse laid an egg. And I was like, why is a mouse laying an egg, dude? That doesn't happen.
Yeah, see, like they can be completely random too, because it's just inside your own head. You don't know what's happening in there, and a lot of the times dreams have meanings. I'm not sure about a lot of the meanings of dreams because they can mean different things for everyone.
Yeah, I took a psych class in high school, and you research different psychologists and stuff, and I remember one of the psychologists, Sigmund Freud, probably one of the most famous psychologists. He like wrote a book about dreams and whatnot, which nowadays people are like, yeah, that's not how dreams work, because a lot of time is very sexual in ways. But yeah, Sigmund Freud, for whatever reason, was like, dreams are always sexual, which I don't think is true.
Well, a lot of his studies, and just in general, are very sexualized, and if you look back on what he did in life, he wasn't a great person.
Yeah.
But overall, your dreams are from what your brain is, and since you're looking back at him, it makes sense why all dreams you thought were sexual. But the craziest thing, even though your mouse laying an egg doesn't make sense to anyone, there's no reason for that. The biggest thing I think is crazy about dreams is no matter how many studies and books and research papers or just like tests you do, ethical and non-ethical, because there's been a lot of each, there is no reason, not a single reason that anyone can agree on why we dream. But we have also tested that we need dreams. And a great thing is if you continuously get waken up in the middle of the night and you don't have a chance to dream, your brain will store dreams. So when you finally get that one burst of rest that you really, really need, you will sleep so well and be filled with dreams, like 5 or 6 dreams within just a 4-hour period of sleeping.
Wow. That's a lot of dreams.
Yeah, and since you're sleeping so well, you don't remember them all, obviously. But one of the tests they did with this was they just had paid people to sleep, but there would be little neurons on the sides of their temples and jolted awake as soon as their brain went to Rem sleep, which is where dreams happen. So that's like, oh, you get paid to sleep. At the same time, you get woken up every hour to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like, is that ethical? Probably, because they get paid for it. But at the same time, it doesn't seem the best for a human brain. But there's also not a lot more non-ethical in the past that have tested dreams and pain frequencies and while you dream. Which, if you go like sci-fi movies and whatnot, where you can project dreams, I feel like that's really neat. But I don't know if we're even close to that.
Yeah, so this talk about dreaming, it makes me think of like lucid dreaming, which is like where you can you're aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming, and you can sort of like control what's happening within your dream. Do you know much about lucid dreaming? Is that something that like you've experienced, or?
My personal dreaming is not great. So, but lucid dreaming is basically you're more in depth with how you sleep, and you can do that through the same ways as practicing short-term sleeping, or just like comparing your subconscious to your awake brain. And you can do that more frequently. A lot of people, the best way they do it is drugs, because like that opens your brain more and you have less sleep. So it makes you more open to a lucid dreaming and the possibility of doing more things inside your head itself. So while those dreams are happening in your head, you can more correctly realize you're in a dream. But at the same time, if you're more control, or a lot of time, meditation just in itself is a lot easier than just taking a lot of things that you don't know what's going to happen to your brain, and just working with your own thoughts and just calming yourself down, and you can be more aware of when you're going to dream because you're putting yourself there.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best way, just to know for certain you're going to get control of your own dream.
I see. So you said that you like worked on all this research and study about dreaming was it for like a college class?
It was a college class. I don't remember the name. It was just one of the psych classes. I did it as like an extracurricular thing, because one of the topics was dreaming, as he said before. You dive into dreaming, but I wanted to dive further into it because I don't dream very well. I thought it was more of an interesting thing that I really was attracted to mentally. And it's a very interesting topic, just like the fact we don't know why we dream. Yeah. And there's so much research done on why we dream. And after hundreds of years, we have no conclusion. I think that's crazy. Like, there's a lot of things we find out in 20 to 30 years. There's a lot of things we have thousands of years we have no idea what it's about. But the fact it's in our own head is crazy to me.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, even just like with science, there was one point where all of the smartest minds on Earth like thought the world was flat, right? And like, so science is constantly evolving, and like, I agree that it is very interesting, just the concept of dreaming and like, what is it? Why does it happen? How does it happen? I agree that it's very interesting, and I hope that sometime in the future, like, scientists can get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, dreaming has been like a really big thing in my life, because I remember so many of them. I even named my Xbox gamer tag like Extreme Dreams, because I just love dreams that much. But yeah, I remember so many of them, and it's just so bizarre to me that like sometimes I'll sit at night and just think about all the dreams I remember, and I could go for hours just remembering little segments of so many dreams growing up. And I have them very, very frequently. However, as I've been getting older, I've been also forgetting them more frequently, it seems. Like, I'll have a dream and I'm like, oh, that was cool. And then an hour later, I'm like, I don't remember what it was.
And I think a great process to do is just literally write down your dreams whenever you remember them. I feel like if you're very vivid about your dreams, which you seem to you are, writing them down makes you dream better, I believe. That's not scientifically proven or anything, but I just feel like if you are aware of how you dream and what you're dreaming about, it just makes it easier to build upon those dreams. And you can look back, it's like, oh, I had that dream a lot. And it can tell something about you. Like the common falling dream, it means you're either full of anxiety or you're full of worry. Like you're constantly in the state of falling mentally, where you're like, oh, I need to prepare for something. In the dream, you're preparing to hit the ground. In life, it could be like preparing for a job interview or like preparing to start school or comparing to just you having a kid or something like that. It's just something big in your life that you're preparing for, and sometimes you don't even know what it is. Like you think you're all okay, you think you're all right, and then you have this dream, but you have it like 3 times a week. It's like, oh, what does this mean? And a lot of dreams have meanings, like common dreams. Falling is probably one of the most common ones. Being chased is one that you're like in-rooted fear of something, like your situation is not good. So if you're being chased by something, you should look at yourself and reflect upon yourself and just like, why would this be here? But not like just one time if it's a reoccurring dream.
Yeah.
Because if it's just once, it's just a dream. It'd have to multiple times for your brain to subconsciously trying to tell you something. Just in general.
Yeah. So are you kind of explaining more, like when it's reoccurring, it could be like a nightmare?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be underlined as a nightmare, because a nightmare is just pretty much a scared dream. People say it's a scary dream, but it's more of a scared dream. You're scared and you're dreaming. It's much different from a night terror, which some people think it's the same. Terrors are your brain being shocked in submission and picturing things that horrify you. So it's more of, a lot of people have it more with anxiety, like diagnosed anxiety. You have night terrors more frequently. Not saying it's a lot, but you can just feel them. A lot of night terrors are lucid dreams as well. So you know you're in a dream, but you have zero control. So it's even more scary because you're like, oh, this can't be real, but you're here and you definitely know something's going to go wrong. And even the anticipation in a night terror could be just enough to freak you out.
I don't think I've ever actually had a nightmare before. Like, I don't think the way my brain works, it really lets me, because I've had dreams that would be considered to be scary, but I've never like felt scared. Like the images might have been scary, but I never felt scared myself. I always feel blissful and like interested in what I'm dreaming about, even if it's like I had this one dream where I was in like a mushroom house and like skeletons were trying to break in and capture me, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. Like, I wasn't
and a
that
lot
scared.
of people, like, if in that circumstance, they would think that's a nightmare just because it's a scary dream. But you have to be scared in the dreams, which wouldn't be a scary dream then. It would just be you're content within your life, which I guess it says a lot about you, because it's like you feel good
Yeah.
most of the time, even with under outlining circumstances, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And just in general.
Yeah, I've heard about like sleep paralysis, which from my understanding is just when you sort of wake up from sleeping, and you're sort of conscious, but you can't like move or anything, and you're just sort of stuck in your body, but you're awake, and that sounds awful. That's something I've never experienced, and I believe there's like a lot of sort of like myths sort of about like sleep paralysis demons, and like a lot of people have had like similar experiences with so-called demons like doing things to them while they're experiencing sleep paralysis.
Yeah, I believe like probably not the main reason, but a lot of the reason why sleep paralysis is a thing is PTSD. It's a lot of like you don't understand what's going on with your own body because your mind is racing all the time. You are constant in fear of whatever inflicted your PTSD. A lot of people is under-rooted PTSD, so like as a child you don't know what's happening and it comes back as an adult. So you have random points of sleep paralysis where you will wake up and not be able to do anything for a few minutes, possibly even a half an hour, just laying in bed in the morning. You have no idea why. And in that point in time, your brain is fluctuating between sleep and being awake. So those demons come in between there, where the part of wherever is proccing their PTSD becomes this form of disgusting, horrifying creature, which is created in your own mind, but you don't even realize it's there. It's just becomes almost metaphysical in your brain, and it can be in your room staring at you outside your window, and it just becomes a creature. And a lot of people see it clear enough where they believe it's real 100%. Some people even go insane because they have no doubt in their mind that is a real person in their room, or a creature, or whatever they see it as.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's really hard to get over that or just get through it, and you have to go through a lot of either sleep studies or just therapy just to work through it, to figure out whatever the PTSD was caused by, or if you already know, just getting through that. And a lot of people struggle with PTSD every day, and that's just one of the side effects that really hurt someone. Sleeping is even hard.
Yeah, that sounds awful. I'm very glad that I've never experienced that, and I feel for those who do, because that seems just not a good experience in any way.
I can't imagine it would ever be.
Yeah.
So Patrick, you've never experienced that before, have you?
No, not personally.
I've experienced that once in my life. No idea why it happened, because I don't struggle with PTSD. I feel like, I have no idea why it happened, but I woke up and I couldn't move. And I was still kind of like in that dream state, so like my arm was on me, and I was like, whose arm is this? Get this off me. I was like trying to get it away, but I couldn't really move very well. I was like, this is so bizarre. But it only happened once, so it's kind of a fluke, I guess. It was very peculiar.
Well, a fluke saying there's no reason behind it, which I believe there's like a reason behind most things that happen with your own body, because why would they happen if they didn't? But not necessarily has to be rooted in PTSD, because that's just like the main reason why people have sleep paralysis. It could just be the way you slept, what you were thinking about, the time period in your life, how you're growing. All those things could affect it. And just the development of your brain at the time could be just like, I don't know what to do in this situation. And whatever you were dreaming about affected where you are in your life right now. So it's just back and forth, and your brain just like, hey, let's take a minute to figure this out before the body starts working.
Yeah. There's also, I've heard about kind of the opposite effect, like sleepwalking. So you're asleep, but your body's moving. Do you know how that functions in a way?
I'm not 100% sure on how sleepwalking works, and a lot of people have they do actually sleep activities. Like, it's not necessarily it's an activity that they normally do in their life, but it's something they either wish to do or they really want to do. And with your sleeping, your brain's more open to doing things, because it's just, I can do anything. I'm in a dream. And a lot of people want to strive to do those things in the dream. That's why it's called your dreams. Some people are scared and terrified of whatever they are in their life, even though they might not outwardly show it. And some people actually sleep fight. So they'll literally punch and beat things in their sleep, which I feel like is an interesting concept, because it's like, why would be the cause of this? Or people that get woken up and immediately start hitting or thrashing at people when you get woken up in the middle of a dream or something like that. It's just pretty much the same thing, but that's a lower scale. The sleepwalking itself, some people have that as a mental condition, where their brain doesn't focus on one thing, so they wander mentally, and then in the dreams it continues to wander on. I personally used to sleepwalk. I never really knew why, and then I was on a top bunk of a bunk bed. Doesn't work out when you roll off and you fall on the ground. It wakes you up, and you don't start to sleepwalk anymore after you do it a few times. Don't recommend that as a cure, though. So
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, my my roommate in college would sleepwalk, and sometimes he'd get out of bed, do a few circles, and then get back in bed. And I was like, I didn't think he was awake for that. There were times where he'd leave the room, and I'd think to myself, like, I hope he's awake and going to the bathroom, because if he's sleepwalking and doesn't come back,
You don't know where he's gonna end up.
but I never had a circumstance where he didn't go back to his bed. He's always come back, so at least he knows how to get back. But
Yeah.
he never remembers it. I tell him about it in the morning. He's like, I did that? Like, so yeah, he slept walked quite a few times, and it was interesting to watch.
Yeah, I don't really know if I've ever had experience with like sleepwalking or anything like that, but the closest thing I can think of, which I know the reasons for, but I think was kind of funny, was when I was younger, probably like 5th grade. I was at a Cub Scout camp, and we all of the older Cub Scouts like went out into the woods with some adults, and we were like camping in the woods for a night. And we had these tents set up, but the tents didn't have like a bottom or anything. It just went over the ground. And so there were quite a few scouts there, and we sort of were struggling to find room to put all the tents. And so my tent, I ended up having to set up like on a hill. So and we also had, the tents were meant for one adult, and we had to fit 3 like little kids in there, so it was pretty cramped in there. And I remember, I went to sleep in my tent, and then I remember waking up in the morning like at the bottom of the hill next to a rock, like 20 plus feet away from the tent.
Was the tent still up?
Yeah, the tent was still up. All the people that I started the night with were still in the tent, but I was just, I guess I like rolled down underneath the bottom of the tent and ended up at the bottom of the hill. So no, that's not sleepwalking. I obviously know why that happened, but
interesting that you didn't wake up.
Yeah,
at the bottom of the hill though.
Yeah, I remember I was very like, it took me a minute when I first woke up. I was like, where, what, huh, whoa, ah, but
Where'd they bring me?
But yeah, that was really funny. And looking back on that it's interesting. I don't know how I didn't wake up rolling down a hill.
Yeah, and that's because like you almost get tossed on a hill too, as if you're a lifeless body.
Yeah. All right. Does Ethan maybe want to hit us up with a dinosaur fact?
Oh, of course. Okay. So welcome to Ethan's fabulous fossil facts. Today's fact is a pretty simple one. So it goes like this. Did you know that Tyrannosaurus Rex lived closer to humans than it did to the Stegosaurus? So, in relation to how long ago a T-Rex lived, we are closer to when a T-Rex lived than to when a T-Rex lived with a Stegosaurus. Did I phrase that weird?
Yes.
Yeah, you're very weird, but I feel like
The amount of time...
the time period between us and T-Rex is shorter than T-Rex and Tyrannosaurus. Or T-Rex and Stegosaurus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Yeah, so... Isn't that kind of weird to think about, that dinosaurs were just around for that long? Like, that's...
pretty crazy.
They were around for a very, very long time. All right, and that concludes my dinosaur fact.
Nice. That dinosaur fact it reminds me of another fact that I've heard. I don't know if this is true. I could just be completely pulling this out of my butt.
So it might not be a fact.
But this is a fact ? That the amount of time between like when the Great Pyramids in Egypt were built and like Cleopatra, that amount of time is larger than the amount of time from Cleopatra living and where we are right now, present day.
I feel like that's pretty accurate. I don't know the exact time period though, like where that is, but I feel like I've heard that before as well. Like Cleopatra was a couple hundred years ago, and the pyramids were a couple thousand years ago. So
Yeah.
it's just human life. It makes sense.
Yeah, which is interesting because like a lot of the time when people think of like Cleopatra, they associate her with all those like pyramids and stuff, but really that was like way before her times.
because she almost is in the power of the pharaoh type thing, and they built the pyramids, but she wasn't there for that, which a lot of people I feel like assume that she was there for the building of him. Well, my favorite fact about like time periods and time gaps is the fact that Betty White is older than sliced bread. I just think that's an amazing fact, and it really warms my heart to hear that. So like,
Is she 99 now?
she is 99 now, as of this year.
Wow.
How old is sliced bread?
She is a whole 5 years older than sliced bread.
Huh. They were just eating big chunks of bread.
She was born in
before?
1922, and sliced bread was 1927.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. So like, best thing since sliced bread, best thing since Betty White. A new saying. Best thing since Betty White. You gotta start saying it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got one more little timey-wimey fact. So, World War II is closer to the Civil War than it is to now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because when was the Civil War?
Like the 1860s, right?
60s.
Maybe? I don't know.
Time frames.
Sometime in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And World War II was in 30s and 40s.
Yeah, it was like 42 was when it started, right?
Something like that. I just know it ended in 45. Well,
Did it end
in Europe, it was victory in
Fact check.
Europe.
What years?
I'm pretty sure victory in Europe was in 45. I don't know about Japan.
True. They kind of ended Japan all suddenly too.
Yeah. But if let's assume Civil War was in 1860, because I'm not a history buff. I'm a dinosaur buff. But
Older than history.
yeah. Like that's like 80. Well, actually, hold on. It'd have to be in the late 80s, late 1880s. Okay, so yeah, the Civil War was in the 1860s.
1860s. So you're right. Okay.
I was
I
correct.
thought it was earlier than that for some reason.
Actually, maybe it's around the same amount of time because, okay, so that's about 80 years between Civil War
So
and World War II.
45 and 65. So that's 100 years.
That's 80. Wait, 60?
Oh, yeah, it's 80 years from now, and then
World War II was 80 years ago.
So it's almost dead even.
It's almost the same.
I think we're like
Okay.
3 years off from being dead even.
Okay, so World War II is like the midpoint between the Civil War and now.
Which is even more interesting than just guessing the dates.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was pulling that from my butt, dude. I was like half sure.
You're like, good little tidbit, and then, maybe.
Maybe. All right, there you go.
All right, is there anything else either you want to add before we wrap up today's episode?
I'm good.
Make sure you get a good night's sleep tonight.
All right, that brings us to the end of today's episode. We had our very first ever guest, Patrick. Thank you for coming on.
I'm very welcome. Honored to be here.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your knowledge about sleep. And yeah, so stay tuned for in the future for upcoming episodes. Thank you.
Bye-bye.